First, let me stop you. This is not a video about strategy. It might sound like it from the title, Baseball Analytics and Poker. It's a true title, but it's not about strategy. It's about fun. Remember when poker was fun? I do. I wish it were more fun than it is. I try to keep it as fun as possible. We were having a great time in the Horseshoe Council Bluffs when I was there in August and September. A few of the dealers are really into baseball, and we were talking about baseball, poker, some metrics. You know, I keep track of things at the table. The classic one, how many hands do we see per down, per hour? So we got to talking, and I think Rice was at the table. I'm not talking about myself. D. Rice, viewer of the channel, the first time we were at the same table at the Horseshoe Council Bluffs, table 9, and I came up with the idea for spray charts. So it was a joke. The thing is, if you don't follow baseball that in depth, spray charts in baseball, it's pretty much a map of the field, and every plate appearance that ends with the ball being put in play, there's a dot on the field. So if the batter gets hit by a pitch, the ball never was put in play. If he draws a walk, the ball was never put in play. Strikeout, same thing. But anytime out or hit that the plate appearance ends with the ball being put in play, there's a dot on the field where the ball landed, and you see, does this player hit it to left field, center field, right field, deep, shallow, and you can align your defense accordingly. It's one of the tools you use to set up your defense for each hitter, spray charts. So I said, what if we had spray charts for dealers? What if we were keeping track? Well, it was really a conversation about keeping track of all data that we could possibly think of for dealers, but spray charts was the most fun. Every time the dealer throws a card, we know where it lands for that seat. Dealer number 1, where does he throw the cards to seat 5? Where do they land? And we would have a map of the table, and we would see where the cards pitched to each seat always land. And as a player, you could adjust your seat a little bit. When the dealers change, you could adjust your seat maybe a few inches to the left, because the dealer coming in throws the cards a little more to your left when you're in seat 5, something like that. It was a lot of fun. It was like insane to think someone would actually do it, but it was a lot of fun talking about it. I did it, all right? I sat, one day I was in seat 8 and I decided to start doing it, and I did it, I think, for 4 dealers. Let me bring you back to my room and my phone and my computer, and I will first show you how I did all this. All right, here's how I was doing it on my phone at the tables in the Horseshoe Council Bluffs. All right, so I would take a screenshot of just a blank white screen and then turn it horizontal. Get just a black marker. There we go. And first I would draw the Bravo screen, and it could be crude, just something like that, because I was sitting in the 8 seat. Bravo screen is right there on the tables at the Horseshoe Council Bluffs. The dealer is to my left, so I have to draw in that. Then I would need to draw the chip stacks, so red, and just kind of draw in a chip stack. Also could be crude, and that was pretty much it. So I have my chips, I have the Bravo screen, and this is ideally where the cards would be thrown, and you'll see, maybe they were there, maybe not. So every time, then I would go blue for no reason in particular, and I would go a little thinner, a lot thinner actually, and every time a hand was pitched to me, which is 2 cards, you know, wherever the center of the card ended, that's where I would put a dot. So if a card were there, I would put a dot. If the next one were pretty close, I would put a dot. And that's what I would do during the entire down of the dealer, and I did it for either 2 or 3 downs for each dealer. So let me show you in PowerPoint now the same thing, but with a little smoother of a progression. Alright, so this is one of the pictures I used to actually keep track of this at the table in the Horseshoe Council Bluffs. First, this is just a note I wrote to myself, it's not that important. Here are my chips. It's crude, but I'll clean it up in PowerPoint later. And that leaves the space between my chips and the Bravo screen. That's where I put the cards after I looked at them, and that's ideally where I would like the cards thrown to me. But that is the space between my chips right here and the Bravo screen right here. So I'm in the 8 seat, the dealer is just to my left, and the cards are coming from the left. So this is what it looked like for this dealer after the first 5 hands. 5 hands is 10 cards. A card was thrown to me. Where the center of that card ended, I put a blue dot. So this is after 5 hands, which is 10 cards. This was after 10 hands, which was 20 cards. This was after the first down was complete. I don't remember exactly how many hands. And then the dealer, you know, went to the next table, the next table, the next table, eventually came back to our table hours later, and I did another down. And this was after 2 full downs at our table getting cards from this dealer. So this is what I wound up with on my phone, and then there were a few steps after that. So after that was done, I would save that image with all the blue dots where the cards wound up. I would send it to my email from my phone. Then when I got back to my room at night, I would go on my laptop, open my email, and I would download that image. And then that image was on my laptop. And then I can use that in PowerPoint to make a much, you know, less crude, a very official spray chart. And I'll show you how that worked. So in PowerPoint, start with a blank slide. And then I would just add, you know, a title. So this was the second time I did this, dealer 2, his spray chart. When I was on table 12, the table doesn't matter, but the seat does, because it'll change, you know, where you're getting the cards pitched based on what seat you're in. I was in seat 8. So first, I would just make a gray box, and that was Bravo. I had it black on my phone because the outline of the screen is black, but when a card ends up on the screen, it's tough to see that blue dot on the black rectangle. So I made it a gray rectangle here. Just add in the fact that we could easily see this is Bravo, that's what that is. Then I would add in my chip stack when dealer 2 was dealing to me and I was keeping track. I had 6 stacks of red and about that far away from the Bravo screen. So there are the chip stacks. Then those dots. So I would take the image from my phone, crop it, crop out the black outline of Bravo, crop out the crude red circles of the chips, crop out any notes I wrote to myself, and just have the blue dots. And then I would insert it into the picture. So right there, I'm not going one by one with the dots. This is the image cropped, you know, saved, cropped, and those are the blue dots. The problem was a few outliers are like really far away. I had to crop them out when I got this image. So then I would go one by one and add in PowerPoint with blue dots of the same size, the additional cards that were kind of outside of that small area where I was getting most of them. And it would look something like this. And this is what you wind up with. It's a little windy, bear with me. This is what you wind up with. So Greg here, you see the Bravo screen, you see the chips, and I think it was 2 downs for Greg in the Horseshoe Council Bluffs. That is where the cards ended up. So pretty centered between the screen and the chips, but I had to reach a little bit. Mark was trying to get them very close to me. They were a lot closer. You see Greg's, I had to reach out and grab them. I had to reach out and get those chips. Mark's were right there between the rail, the chips, and the Bravo screen. And Mark was very adamant about trying to get them right there where I was going to keep my cards anyway. So you could see the difference between Greg and Mark. And I had 2 other dealers. I didn't print those out, but these are the 2 I have printed out right now. And the best part is putting them in your hat and pretending like you're an outfielder in baseball. So tuck them into my hat right here. So if you don't follow baseball that closely, I think infielders are close enough to the dugout that coaches just kind of tell them to move over or just kind of point and it's easy to see. Outfielders are very far away, and why would you bother when you're making 8 figures a year to actually like think about defenses and have anything memorized? So they have pieces of paper that they now keep in their hats, which it's a travesty that that's allowed, but they do it, and you'll see them positioned for one batter, and then that plate appearance ends, and they'll take their hat off and they'll look at the piece of paper in their hat, and then they'll move a couple steps over and they position themselves for the next batter. So if you see, that first paper is blank, and then I have Mark's spray chart and I have Greg's spray chart. So the best part was when Mark and Greg were back-to-back dealers in the Horseshoe Council Bluffs and I were sitting in seat 8, I would be in position, let's say Mark and then Greg. I was in position for Mark, and then when Mark is dealing his last hand and I see Greg is about to push in, I would take my hat off, flip through my spray charts, see that Greg compared to Mark, I'm not going to get the cards as close to the rail as I would like, and then I would move the chair up a few inches and I would be better positioned to reach out and grab the cards that Greg were going to throw my way. So we had a lot of fun coming up with the idea and talking about some other advanced metrics that are insane that no one will ever keep track of for dealers, even though it would be cool to know the numbers. And for the spray charts, I actually took the time, took a few hours to make the little maps on my phone, put the blue dots where the cards wound up, and then do some stuff in PowerPoint and actually go to the Office Depot in Council Bluffs, Iowa, and print them out, and then show the dealers that I actually made these things. So I told you it wasn't going to be a strategy video, but it was going to be a fun video. So that was a great time, and it wasn't a lot. It wasn't difficult work, but it did require a few hours because I had to get all those dealers, like 4 dealers, like 2 or 3 times, and then I had to do some stuff on PowerPoint. But well worth it. It was a lot of fun thinking of it, talking about it, making it, and then going into the casino that final day and showing the dealers that I actually created these things.